my technical advisor.
I'm going to start recording now.
All right, Roger that.
I'm going to stop sharing my video.
Oh.
Okay. Everyone good?
Yeah.
Everyone looks good? Sounds good? Great. Emily is setting up. She's just going to do a little slide to share and play some music.
Sure. Okay.
So I'm going to get it started right now. I'll admit everyone and we'll get it started. Sound good?
Let's do it. Okay.
Okay.
Right on time.
All right.
Good job.
Everyone.
Testing, testing. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Better now?
Hey, Rafi.
It's so quiet in here. Hope everybody's doing fine.
Hey, Rafi, can you hear me?
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We'll be starting in a few minutes, okay?
Thank you.
Okay, so let's start.
hear you.
Can you hear me now? Good morning, everyone. How are you? Thank you for joining us. We're so excited to welcome you to our seminar today. How will COVID-19 affect commercial real estate and residential estate in the Bay Area beyond 2020? I am the president-elect for VNARP, which is Vietnamese National Association of Real Estate Professional, and also the past president of ACP, Asian Commercial Professional. And it's my great honor to moderate today's panelists. This is the first joint venture with Asian Commercial Professional, Vietnamese National Association of Real Estate, and Asian Real Estate Association of America, AREAA East Bay, Greater East Bay. First, we want to thank all the sponsors of these three organizations. Please refer to their website to see all the sponsors. And also, a special thanks to the Education Committee and the Programs Committee for working together to put this event together. So I want to discuss our format for today a little bit. We'll have 35 minutes of a roundtable discussion with our panelists, 10 minutes to 15 minutes of Q&A, and then about 15 minutes for networking, and you'll be, at this point, we'll have a breakout room for all of you to join. And also, just for you to know, we'll be recording today's session, and you can, if you can't make it all, and all of the questions and answers, we'll be recording so you'll have access to it. So without, one other question. Please, during the session, if you have any questions, please put it on your chat box, and Mark Kim will be the moderator for the questions and answers at the end of our session. First, I'd like to introduce our panelists. First but not least is Deborah Kwok. She's the co-founder and managing director of SVN and QAV Associates. Her primary focus is in office and medical and dental office leasing and sales in the Bay Area. Deborah, interesting information about Deborah is she's a food blog that's called Piedmont Pantry for the local newspaper, the Piedmont Post. You can find her blog on Facebook, so please support her on that. Our next panelist is Justin Wong. Hi, Justin. Welcome. Justin is a commercial realtor with SVN Pacific Commercial Advisors and specializes in multifamily and retail properties in the East Bay. Believe it or not, he's also the president of AREAA East Bay, and his chapter was voted the best chapter of the year in 2020 under his leadership. Congratulations, yeah. Alan Wang is the founder of Allen Wang Realty Group and Keller Williams of Santa Clara Valley. His team is ranked 100 in the nation now in 2019 and 72nd in the state of California in 2020. Alan is a avid sports fan and watches pretty much all the sports. And he loves to play the game of fantasy football. And on top of that, he has 3 kids to take care of. I don't know what you do. So thank you, panelists, for taking your time to share your knowledge and expertise today. Please remind you just to send in your question below under the chat box. So without further ado, my first question is to all the panelists. What have you seen so far that's happened in your area of expertise in 2020? And what have we learned to live with COVID-19? Deborah, could you start us with that?
Sure. My role on this morning's panel is to talk about office and retail commercial properties. And so what we're seeing in these sectors is definitely a slowdown. You don't need me and my market knowledge to let you know that if you're just checking out the news headlines every couple of days. People are working from home. Vacancies in both office and retail have risen, but there are a few bright spots. IKEA's parent company has purchased a long-suffering retail mini mall in San Francisco's mid-market, and they are going to be opening their new model for urban shopping experiences. For all of you IKEA fans out there, you don't have to drive out to the big box that may be miles away. They've got a new model that they're rolling out in urban areas. And then down in the peninsula recently, Ring Central, some of you may know of that firm. They are a competitor with Zoom. Depending on what business you're in, this COVID area has either really slowed your business or escalated your business. Zoom, we know, we're on a Zoom platform today. Ring Central, a lot of those types of businesses have exploded. And in Belmont, down on the peninsula, Ring Central just renewed 85,000 square feet of their headquarters. So I'm going to be talking a lot about a tale of two cities in my comments today.
Thank you, Deborah. And Justin, what are your thoughts on your area of expertise? We can't hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Okay, yes.
Okay, great. So in regards to commercial real estate, obviously there's different sectors of commercial real estate. And I think in light of COVID-19, whether it's retail or office, you're seeing a lot of pivots within the market. But having said that, and I know that Alan can, shed some light on the residential end, but as people work from home, as people adjust to the work-home life balance, you're seeing a further emphasis in multifamily, living at home, having those units and whatnot. And so I'd say that, and I can go more into detail about this, but I'd say that warehouse, industrial, and multifamily has been one of the more stable products in commercial real estate. Obviously people are working from home. My sister, actually, she works for Google. It was announced that until further notice, Google offices will be working remotely, working from home until just July 2021. Conversely, mid-markets in San Francisco for Twitter, I'm sure you guys have heard, they are working from home until further notice. And so for those that do have apartments that are living, it is a further emphasis on multifamily.
Thank you, Justin. And Alan, what's going on with residential? It's hot, right?
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about that. But I mean, your question is kind of how do we get through COVID-19? And I think if you go back to March and April when we all had to shelter in place, there's definitely a frenzy on how do we do business during COVID-19. And so that definitely, we spent March and April trying to figure out, all right, how do we record homes? How do we show homes? What's the protocol? What are the forms that we need to sign? And so that was kind of just coping with COVID, right? Making sure you get your mask, your gloves, your shoe covers, and sign the waiver form. Getting all that settled down now, consuming online content. I think that's really in the residential space, the big shift and pivot that we all had to pivot if you're a listing agent to a virtual platform. And otherwise there's no other way to see the property for a little while there, and getting virtual staging and all that. But we're past all that now. I think we've all figured out how to sell and buy homes during COVID. But that was a major, major shift in our business model in March and April.
So in follow-up to that question, what are the trends you're seeing in residential market?
Yeah, residential market wise, I mean, it's definitely, as you guys are probably hearing already, the tale of two markets. I'll take a little bit from there, but there. Tale of two markets, basically, if you're in a single family space and you need more space for your family, bigger house, yard for the kids, that market is red hot. Almost no matter, it doesn't really matter where you are in any of the local counties around here. But if you're talking condo townhomes, then the trend is a little more dire in San Francisco. As you know, everyone's moving out of there because there's no city life, there's no jobs to go to, no need to pay expensive rent. So the condo sector is definitely hurting, especially in San Francisco. And also, honestly, in all the other counties too. San Mateo County, Santa Clara County, Alameda County, Contra Costa. The condo market is not what people love right now. And townhomes also kind of bleed into that as well. It depends on location. People aren't loving the townhome experience as much either.
Thank you. This question's for you, Deborah. What long-range impact would hybrid work have on commercial office space? Especially, do you see corporations reducing their office needs in the future? And if more people are being able to work at home, what do you see?
The way it's looking now, there will likely be negative impacts for the foreseeable future in the office market. Vacancy rates are as high as they've ever been. We had been enjoying throughout the Bay Area very low vacancy rates, 5, 6, 7%. Now they're beyond 9%. East Bay's reaching 10% vacancy in office. And if you are out driving around, you know the heavy hit that retail is taking. So I think that what a recent Bay Area Council survey of local CEOs cited was that 20%, 1/5 of the companies are planning to transition to full remote working policies. And 90% of the CEOs reported that they're going to have at least partial remote working policies. So that will have an impact. Justin mentioned a couple of things that are happening. Pinterest, we saw that huge headline. They paid almost $90 million, that's with an M, $90 million to terminate a lease on a build-to-suit that they hadn't even occupied. That build-to-suit was going to be for nearly 500,000 square feet at 88 Bluxom Street in San Francisco Soma area. And they just decided that with these changes in working policies, they didn't want to commit to that. They are still committed to their current locations throughout the city. Justin mentioned Twitter. 100,000 square feet of their mid-market project is up for sublease. Facebook, again, in the news, 50% of their workforce is probably going to be remote permanently over the next 5 or 10 years. And, you know, this whole sheltering in place and the use of technology has really shown that remote working is a viable alternative. Real estate is generally the second highest expense on a company's balance sheet behind HR. And so they're going to look for significant opportunities to reduce expenses.
So and follow up to that, you don't think it's just gonna be this year or next year, but it's gonna be long range? It's gonna affect long range?
I think so. You know, the next couple quarters are going to tell the tale, but most of, you know, the tech firms certainly have already announced work from home through summer of 2021, some permanently. So we've got, again, 3-4 quarters of observing how this is all going to play out for the future. I think downtown city core, especially in San Francisco, when the commute is rough, and to Alan's point, a lot of the workers have fled the city, that when office use comes back, it's going to be suburban office and potentially smaller footprints.
Wow, thank you. And so in follow up to that, Justin, one of the questions that came up from our thing is, are there any benefits for our renters with the CARES Act or the federal aid program that we can provide to our listeners today?
Yeah, sure. I mean, you know, earlier this year with the CARES and federal aid, I mean, you know, there was the stimulus check, and then, you know, for unemployment and whatnot, that was there. A big portion for real estate professionals was, you know, you could apply and you could get some federal assistance in that regards. But as of right now, and this remains to be seen, there's nothing in sight in regards to anything getting finalized. But what I will say right now in the Bay Area, and this happened a couple of weeks ago, the Tenant Protection Act of 2020. And so that is something that does protect tenants. That is something that landlords right now in the Bay Area are very mindful of. And it brings a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel because, you know, right around March when COVID-19 started, California pretty much told everyone in regards to multifamily and commercial properties as well, but you do not have to pay rent for now. It can be deferred. It could be paid at another time. So in light of the Tenant Protection Act of 2020, from what I understand, September 2nd, the courts have now opened for cases outside of non-payment of rents. October 5th, coming right up, cases in relation to non-payment of rent, that is open game for the courts. And from that span of March to August, From March to August, if you did not pay rent during that time, that rent is still not technically due. Don't get me wrong, that the rent still is due. And if you do not pay it, it will be resolved through small claims courts. But in light of state of emergency, you do not have to pay it. But for September to January 2021, tenants have to pay at least 25% of the rent that is due. And so, for landlords, 25%, I mean, it doesn't give a whole bunch of resolution per se, but it's better than what it was before. And it gives a little bit of direction right now for California, the state of emergency. But I think that we'll get a little bit more resolution once the state of emergency is lifted. But the thing that does keep me in mind with my clients is just, for non-payments of rent, small claims courts. I mean, the courts are going to be very busy. 2021, yeah. Yeah.
Deborah, this question is for you. Do you see any residential space retail space being converted to residential at this point? Have you seen any of that at all?
Not so much here in the Bay Area, retail converting to residential. There are reports of that happening in other areas, and I'd be happy to learn if my data isn't up to the minute. But we are seeing adaptive uses for retail around. There is a lot of changing to office space, to medical office space, to community and arts space. We're still pretty much confined to or limited to how many people you can put in an enclosed area. So we still have to wait that out. A lot of the Peninsula area, South Bay area retail malls have been converting. Unfortunately, a lot of them have been opening for big fitness centers and lifestyle type tenants, and they're curtailed. Food courts, eataly, that kind of activity is still on hold. So I think retail is going to be a bumpy ride for a while here.
Okay, thank you for that. And Alan, in terms of your area, in terms of interest rate, what do you see in terms of will it stay as low as they have been, and what are some of the best rates you've seen so far?
Yeah, there was an article yesterday on CNN that the Federal Reserve is looking to hold rates for the near future. So I think definitely, for sure this year, 2021, I don't see the Federal Reserve moving on rates. So I believe low interest rates are going to be here for a little while. And that really just depends on what the outlook looks for the 2021 economy for the United States. But yeah, I expect rates to be low, and they are really, really ridiculously low right now. I mean, most rates on a 30-year fixed jumbo I'm seeing are hovering around 3%. And then on a 7-1 or 10-1 ARM, you're in and around 2.5 or 2.75. Here's the part that's not fair. A lot of the lenders are the ones that do have funds and are a lot of liquid cash. The lenders reward those folks, and a lot of the big banks call it assets under management. So every $250,000 increment of funds that you have, whether that's to close the house or you just want to keep it with the bank, they'll usually give you a discount on the rate.
Wow.
So I'm even afraid I saw a ridiculous rate my client got yesterday that I was shocked at seeing, and I know he has a lot of funds, so I think that's why it was a sub 2% rate, but I think he had over $1 million with this bank, and so I was shocked when I saw that. But I mean, he may have more. I didn't really ask, but so if you do have liquid funds with the bank, you'll get even better rates, and they're rewarding the folks that have a lot of assets under management.
Thank you. And this one's for you, Justin. What impact has work from home had on the multifamily, and what do you see? Are there a lot of people going out of state? Is there a flight out of states at this point?
Sure. So in regards to multifamily, and this is just in general for all multifamily, whether it's in the Bay Area or another neck of the woods, but in light of COVID, people are working from home. And so for your property management, I mean, if more people are, instead of being away from 9 to 5, if they're there 24/7 per se, stuff is going to break, in regards to maintenance, utilities and whatnot. And so that is a further emphasis on your property management. You know, if you manage it yourself, great. Otherwise, if you have a larger unit count, that is mindful of in regards to day-to-day activity. But to your point about out of state, like I mentioned before, my sister, she works for Google. She can work anywhere she wants. And I've known a couple of friends that have been able to move elsewhere, maybe get out of this California air pollution, go elsewhere, live sunnier, pay a better rent for the time being, and still being able to work from home. Another thing just to be mindful of is, you know, depending on your apartment, your common area space, just making sure safety protocols, making sure that everyone feels confident about their living space in multifamily. And so those are some of the nuances that, you know, if you are in the multifamily industry, that those are things to be mindful of.
So do you see more of people moving out in the surrounding Bay Area or out of state totally? What do you see there?
You know what, the Bay Area will always have a high floor in that regards to what the Bay Area is and what it, you know, what it serves within the tech industry. But to your point, San Francisco rents, they have gone down 15%. East Bay, I believe it's gone down about 5%. It is trickling along to other areas of the Bay Area. And I'm sure Alan can agree, everyone is looking to get bigger space. It's the return of the suburbs. And those are the things that I'm really seeing on the multifamily perspective.
That's great, thank you. Just a reminder, if you have any questions for the panelists, you can send it into the chat box below and then we'll can answer your question. And so the next question is for Deborah. How much sublease have you seen on the market in the San Francisco starting in 2020? And do you see that, of course, you kind of mentioned it earlier, but do you see accelerating in the future for 2021?
Absolutely, it's just mind-boggling. 40% of the available space on the market in San Francisco, 40% is
Wow.
sublease space.
Wow.
Over 9.5 million square feet. I mentioned Twitter, but all of the major tech firms have vacant space on the market. The San Jose, Silicon Valley area, not quite so much. There are a lot of owned campuses there, and it's a little bit more resilient, but we are seeing maybe, I think the last data point was about 25 to 30% of the available space in the Silicon Valley market was sublease space. I'm just looking here at my data, 20% of the space in the Silicon Valley is sublease. So it's a little bit more stable there. East Bay, the vacancy rates have been higher. The famous Uptown Station that was to be the new Uber headquarters in downtown Oakland has significant sublease space. Wow. So sublease space and sublease pricing is really going to be a factor in compressing rent rates. Just as an anecdote, I have a direct lease listing in downtown San Francisco, quoting at the mid-80s, and a colleague of mine with a competing firm has a law firm tenant requirement for about 10,000 square feet. So I chatted with him to encourage him to come to my space. And he says, you know, Deb, I love you, but I've got a sublease space, you know, not that far away. It's listed law firm space at $73 a square foot, and wow. The subtenant countered at $60 a square foot.
Wow. Fully
furnished, plug and play. So 10,000 square feet of law firm space going for $60 a square foot.
Wow, amazing. Wow. The next question, Alan, is for you. Since you're in the residential, you said it's hot right now. What changes have you made in sales technique and tools to help you list the property, show it virtually, and also close the transaction, close the deal? What techniques can you share with our audience here?
Yeah,
your expertise.
I mean, for my team, we've always done things this way, but if you're one of these agents that haven't really embraced the tech, it's time to do that now. So every listing you put up, it should have a landing page, a property website. It needs obviously professional photos. Don't snap pictures with your iPhone 3. I actually saw a listing yesterday where all the pictures were missing the side borders because they didn't landscape it. They portraited it. I was like, oh, somebody did this with their phone. Don't do that. I mean, get a professional out, get the 3D tour going. A floor plan would be nice. A lot of folks from different countries prefer to floor plans. If it's a house, try to get a drone if there's something nice to showcase, like the lot. But really, the website 3D tour are the most important items that you definitely need to do, because people are at home and they're supposed to consume the house online first before going. And so that's definitely leverage the tech. Before, I used to not do this for smaller homes, 1-bedrooms or 2-bedroom condos, but I'm doing it for all homes now. It's just a requirement. It's needed, period. So yeah, highly recommend you do that. But here's the thing, I just telling Rafi on the chat, buyers are kind of gotten over the whole going to the house thing. They're just going. So they're supposed to consume everything online, but I mean, I just find that they're just, as long as they got their masks, their gloves, and their shoe covers, and stay 6 feet apart, they're feeling pretty comfortable right now. It's almost like old times. So I'm not sure if it's as important as March and April, but definitely still important.
So in that case, do you make appointments for them to see the space? So do you limit how many people actually see the space at this point?
Yes. You're supposed to keep it down to 2 people from the same family and the agent. And if there's more people, then you take turns and they stay outside and you do that. And that's that's the process.
And so this question's for you, Justin. Will you see a conversion of office and retail space into a multifamily home? Have you seen any of that happening at all?
Not quite yet, but I am seeing some rumblings. We talk about the pivot within commercial. I've heard Simon Properties, they're a big heavy hitter in regards to malls. I think they have Stonebridge and Sanford. Anywho, so from what I understand, they are talking with Amazon. A huge deal might be coming in which they take some of their lackluster retail and convert it into fulfillment centers. There have been talks too, just going back with that additional excess of retail space. It would not surprise me if it was converted into multifamily, let alone affordable housing, especially in light of what everything is coming to be right now. There are plans, and I know working with the cities does take some time, but it would not surprise me to see that sort of pivot, especially going into housing.
Are you saying hotels also into multifamily housing? What about hotels? What do you see there?
Hotels right now, I mean, I won't say that they're staying hold, but I know that they are also helping out with the homeless and some other affordable housing in the interim right now. Down the road, I'm not too sure, but that's what's happening right now. Okay.
So this question is very important, Alan. Why do you see your sector doing so well and everybody else's, Deborah's and Justin's not doing so well?
Yeah, it was funny. I was telling this panel earlier that in March and April, I was very worried. I mean, I thought, oh my gosh, right? If we're sheltering in place and we're not considered essential, how are we going to survive? It was definitely a very stressful time. But here's my answer to that question is back to the Maslow hierarchy of needs: food, clothing, and shelter. Right? And shelter being a core need of society. And I mean, it's perhaps not at the dire levels we're thinking, but put it this way: if you are a parent and you're stuck in a 2-bedroom apartment or 2-bedroom condo or 2-bedroom anything or 3-bedroom or just a tiny little house with no yard, your kids are driving you crazy, right? And probably has been for months.
You should know, you have 3 kids.
Yes, I have 3 kids, and then I got a trampoline, I live on a cul-de-sac, right? But if I didn't have that, I would be one of these buyers going, I'm going crazy. I need space. So I'm getting out of this condo, getting out of this townhome, and I need a backyard. I need a lot. I need a cul-de-sac. I need a bigger house. I need an office, right? Right now, I'm sure you guys all have the same problem. I mean, I have one office. My wife and I, she's went upstairs now, and I took the office downstairs, and each kid has their own room, and it's just been, for all of us, it's been a trying time. And that's really what it is. People are just trying to get more space, period. That's what's driving it. And also, remember, people are staying in their houses because they're sheltering in place.
Right.
So they're not selling. So the inventory levels have dropped ridiculously low. And so buyers are out trying to get bigger houses and sellers aren't selling. So the same supply and demand problem we've always had it's even worse than usual.
And in terms of rental, in terms of sales rates, sale prices, is it going? Do you see an uptick since the supply is so limited?
Exactly right. Low supply. I bid on a house in Los Altos, and it was 10 offers. Right. This was a couple days ago.
Wow.
And I mean, it didn't push as crazy up because it's a pretty high price point. But I mean, 10 offers. I'm going, where are these people getting all their money? I mean, it's because they work in tech and their jobs are stable and the stock market's doing really well. And so people are, at least the people that are able to buy are buying. And those are the ones in tech that are stable. Unfortunately, the other sectors, if you're in any of the other sectors, depending on which sector you're in, you may not be in that position to do that. But for us, the tech folks are keeping things afloat.
And then also in terms of that, do you see a migration into the outer area or to another state in terms of residential? We didn't touch that bit.
Yeah, and Deborah and I have talked about this offline as well, is the flight east, right? So folks have left San Francisco and they're heading to the East Bay. So a lot of folks are picking up homes in San Ramon, Danville, Pleasanton, Dublin, because you get so much more for your money right out there. And then of course there's a flight south to the peninsula and South Bay. Definitely there's a flight there as well. That's kind of the more local migrations. And as Justin mentioned, is that the suburbs are cool again, right? Everyone's moving to the suburbs for more space. Now, the other one that's, saddens me a little bit, so I'm a homegrown Bay Area guy, there's definitely a lot of people moving out of the area. And the first wave was the folks that were living in the city, right? They're from different states and they don't need to be here. They don't need to be here. It's cheaper to live with mom and dad, right? So they just moved back home and gave up their rents and they're gone. The second wave are folks that have children and families, and yet they're still thinking, oh my gosh, I don't have any family here. Right? It's super lonely. It's really hard. And so what they're planning to do is they're going out of state. My neighbor's moving to San Diego. Another client of mine's moving to Seattle. Another one's moving to Arizona and Denver. I mean, people are just, they're taking this opportunity to go, you know what, if I don't need to be here, then I'm going to go. However, I will put a little asterisk by this. And I will tell you that when things get better from the pandemic, the companies will expect you to come back to work. They'll probably, as Justin said, they'll probably hybrid it, or Deborah, both of you said, they'll hybrid for a little bit, and then, but they will want you back. I don't think they really enjoy this. They don't get that camaraderie when you're coding together side by side. Zoom is just not the same, right? It slows things down. It's not as productive as sitting side by side with a small team.
Okay, so that's great. Did you have some comment, Deborah?
Sure. Just to piggyback on something Alan just said, is that there are a lot of productivity metrics happening within corporations to be able to measure what's happening with productivity and employee job satisfaction from working from home. And depending on the industry, of course, the early results are that there is a diminution of the firm's productivity through work from home. So again, the next couple of quarters, the data is going to come in and firms are going to reevaluate and adjust accordingly.
So if we to do this in another 6 months, it'd probably be a totally different pictures, right? So this is a really interesting question that we got thrown in. Is if you had $10 million, what sector would you invest in? In which sector? So Deborah, you have the choice of saying it first.
Sure. I'm a big believer in the medical office asset class in which I work. I have seen it be resilient and recession proof. People need to get medical and dental care. These are successful businesses because, again, people need them. They're not optional, and the quality of tenants that occupy these assets, their credit is high. Pre-COVID, there was only a 1% failure rate in dental practices, 1%.
Wow.
Now, the chair of the California Dental Association has a dire prediction that many especially new dental enterprises may not make it because they have had to curtail seeing patients, and now that they're open, they're seeing fewer patients. So we're waiting for the dust to settle, but I would literally put my money on medical office.
Okay, how about you, Justin?
Sure. It's twofold when it comes to multifamily. You know, on one hand, as I mentioned before, multifamily, working from home, housing is going to be it's going to be very important for the next couple of years. But at the same time, too, right now there is a bit of a discrepancy between seller and buyer. You know, seller does view said property at a certain rate. Buyer, right now, at least in the market, they're trying to get a good deal, just because right now the buyer pool is a much smaller than what it was in years past. And the reason why I say that is because of tenants, because of the job system that's going on right now. You know, if you underwrite a multifamily property with a bunch of vacancies, it's a lot harder for loans.
Yeah.
And so in years past, I used to see 70 LTV. I'd say more so right now, you have to put about 40% down.
Wow.
You know, so that puts the buyer pool a little bit more concise. And so for those buyers that are out there, they're savvy enough, they have that cash, they can leverage that. They could have a relationship bank for their underwriting where it can make it happen. But if I had $10 million and I had, you know, for one, I'd love to have $10 million, but if I had that sort of cash and I could leverage within multifamily, I would. I'd also make sure that my property management, especially in the interim in light of COVID-19, is intact. And what would I do? Primarily, you know, I wouldn't necessarily target the Class A sort of multifamily. Class B, Class C, I might make a point to not necessarily let it ride, but you know, the capital improvements, maybe hold on, you know, just maintain a stable income right now. And when things do get better, make those capital improvements, the rents will eventually go back up within the markets and the opportunity will be there. But I think that right now in the interim, with rents, with tenants, and just the day-to-day stuff, it's hard to navigate. But I think if you're savvy enough, there's a lot of upside in multifamily.
Thank you. Yeah, good. So how about you, Alan? I know where that goes.
Yeah, I mean, I subscribe to, it just depends on what your goals are, as Marty's saying in the chat here, right? If you're, I like to buy when things are tough. And I think that's when the most upside, but obviously it's a little bit more risk. So if I were to take 10 million, I'd probably divide it between the two sectors. I'd probably, if you're talking about most bang for the buck with most upside, would be buying a condominium or townhouse in San Francisco right now. That sector is down extremely low, but you have to put down enough cash to make sure you can break even on the lower rents, right, to ride that out. I think in maybe definitely 3 years from now, you'll be able to sell that, turn it, and make a profit on the appreciation of that product. And then the second part, I might invest the other half in any commercial spaces, or possibly retail. Retail might be a little tough, but again, you got to put enough down to be able to hold it, right? And same with commercial. If you think there's some upside in a commercial space that a tech company or some other company might pick up eventually, it might be an opportunity to get a deal. So yeah, if I were to take 10 million, I would hedge it and try to pick some of these really these assets that are hurting, and then and look for about 2 to 3 year horizon to turn them.
Thank you. So the last but not least, in closing, everyone have their expertise, and I know you can't predict, you know, the crystal ball with everything that's so in flux. What do you project is coming in 2021 in your area of expertise? Deborah?
Sure. It's important for all of us in our industry to watch the economic forecasting models, and any economist will tell you that they've got a 50% chance of being accurate. But most of the trending that I'm seeing is that 2021 is going to be bumpy still, easily into mid-year. So what we're going to see in office in particular, where I am most active, and in retail, is increasing vacancy, which means decreasing rents. Cap rates are increasing. That's for investment sales, where the return on the investment is not going to be what it had been pre-COVID. So that's what I'm projecting and predicting. With a bit of luck, it will only be through mid-2021. I'm seeing plenty of models where toward the end of 2021, things start looking up. We're all watching the news for a vaccine, even if they have one next year, getting it out there to people and getting vaccinated, and what about what happens in 2021.
Okay, thank you. How about you, Justin? Any predictions for your area of expertise for next year?
Yeah, the court's going to be backed up. When it comes to rent payment, it's going to be
Oh boy,
it's going to be I wish there was a better alternative than what we
brutal.
have. Anywho, so I predict that. I also predict, in light of COVID-19, people are still going to work from home. It's not going to be just black and white that we're back into the workforce, back into the downtown. So there needs to be something done, hopefully within the next year or so, to bring confidence back, for retail and for office. And that translates to multifamily, just because, I believe that commercial, everything is kind of interrelated with commercial.
Right.
With higher retail, with higher office, you will have a more affluent multifamily culture within that respective group. But if things are lacking, it's going to affect all sectors of commercial. So having said that, as of right now, multifamily, it's an obvious need. And, with e-commerce and industrial and warehouse, that's an obvious need right now. You can make a case for cannabis too. But those are the things that I kind of see right now in the present.
You, Alan?
The crystal ball question. Yes, always. There's a lot of factors going on. I mean, I think the elections are the big question mark right now. In a lot of folks' minds, depending on what kind of policy is going to be rolled out. But I have two views on this. Let's take the microeconomic view, which is the Silicon Valley. I believe that we live in a very special place. It's a very strange place where it defies logic, right? So I think we're going to continually have low inventory levels. The tech market should continue to be strong, the job market, I mean. And then the big variable will be the stock market, right? Will the stock market, with whoever the new president is, will it be friendly enough for the stock market to keep doing what it's doing? If the stock market takes a hit, then we are going to take a hit. Now, mind you, the stock market is not the economy, but it is our local economy. Because if the NASDAQ drops or dips or by major amounts, people will not be paying what they're paying for houses. So there's a direct correlation there. So depending on how that goes, if everything stays the same, then yeah, I think we're going to have the same low inventory and probably a overbidding on pricing. If the vaccine comes out, then and we're actually allowed to go out, and then perhaps the condo and townhome sector might recover a little bit. But I don't see that in Q1, Q2, probably Q3, Q4 of next year at the best, right? If we're lucky. The second is the macro economy. This has me a little bit more worried. The rest of the nation, I think, is probably eventually going to hurt more than we are. We have, if forbearance expires, right? Tenant rent deferrals. If those go away, if all these protections go away, then we're going to be suddenly in a situation, right? Possibly foreclosures again, that kind of thing. And if that global kind of United States domestic issue trickles down to us in our area as a general sentiment of the economy, then we might have major problems, right? Even in our market. So we'll monitor both. I still think we live in a bubble, but we have to watch both of these micro and macro economic indicators.
Thank you, panelists, for your insight. It was very good. Can everybody give them a hand? Thank you so much for spending your time and doing that. So the next phase of our thing is the Q&A. And Mark Kim, who is the president of ACP, has been gathering all the questions on the chat room, and he will be the one asking the panelists these questions. Go ahead, Mark. Thank you, Mark.
Hey, everyone. So yeah, I've seen some really great questions coming in the chat box. Feel free to add a few more because we have a little bit of time. But yeah, just gathering some of these here. So this question probably for Deborah. Any insights on the impact of COVID to co-working spaces? For example, we work in liquid space.
I had a pretty good bird's eye view into both WeWork and No-Tell, which is a slightly different model than WeWork, although WeWork does have a head-to-head competing headquarter. It's called WeWork HQ model to No-Tell. And I think that when they readjust their models and how their members, they're called members who go to that location, if they can adjust that when people do want to come back to an office environment to make it safe, then I think that there's place for them. You know, a lot of companies are going to need extra space, as it were, if their offices aren't COVID ready, that the WeWorks and Liquid Space offer that flexibility. Their enterprise model, where if you visited a WeWork, you'll see that entire floors are, you know, taken by IBM or some large enterprise entity. I think that could probably still remain in place, again, while these companies need flexibility, and that whole short-term model is going to be really important in the next couple of years while we sort this out. And, you know, this is COVID-19, and you all probably heard about this in the news too. There's been 19 of these, and there's going to be more. Superbugs are going to be part of our life. And so we're going to get on top of this one. Then there's going to be potentially another novel virus that is going to have potentially similar impacts. So the lessons we take away from this experience in terms of how it relates to real estate will be really critical.
Great, thank you. This question for Alan, kind of a general question, but it will be good to get your feedback. If you had to pick a city in the Bay Area that has the best value for homes,
Good one.
if there is such a thing for the Bay Area, what city or cities would that be?
That's value. Are we talking about just deals right now in general?
Yeah, I think just best deals.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of alluded to this already. San Francisco condo townhome market is just hurting right now, and for the reasons I mentioned earlier. So that would be the one I would, if you want a deal, that's where you would pick it up.
Yeah, got it. Okay. And this one, Justin, it sounds like for anyone any owners of apartment buildings, what does the market look like? Is it a good time to buy or sell for apartment buildings?
Yeah, well, it depends on kind of where your head's at right now. On one, you know, I do have a couple listings right now where sellers are, you know, in light of COVID-19 and just working with tenants, you know, Bay Area in general has always been very pro-tenant to begin with. And so when you tack on COVID-19 and just, you know, managing that, they said the time is right. And to that point, the price point for multifamily is still very healthy. But on the other end, if you are a buyer, and I would recommend you should be an experienced buyer right now, working with tenants, working with these opportunities. Maybe legal counsel might be there as well, depending on the sort of multifamily you get. But there should be plenty of opportunity if you have $10 million in that scenario question. But if you do have that sort of leverage, and if you value that upside in the long haul, I think that there's plenty of opportunity to really get at it. Like I mentioned before, the buyer pool is a lot smaller right now. And so if you have your eggs lined up, I think you can make a really good investment on multifamily.
Great, thank you. This one, and really kind of a recommendation for the situation that they have a client, someone has a client right now who's buying a retail property to move an existing restaurant. The big issue for the lender is how the client is going to deal with the deferred rent on his other 3 restaurants.
Oh, geez. Deborah?
You know, it's just going to go to the credit worthiness. I don't know what the other 3 restaurants are. If they are able to be open whatsoever, if they have a takeaway plan that's viable for them. I don't know that I'm not trying to skirt it, but I don't know enough information to really give a cogent response. It's just going to depend on the credit worthiness, the pro forma modeling, and what the new restaurant model is and what the other three are.
Right. Got it. A lot of different, depends on really the situation at hand. So yeah, so feel free, whoever asked that question, you could reach out to Deborah and maybe get some more details. She can assist you with that.
Sure.
Okay. Let's see. So then that's the end of our Q&A. And what we're gonna do, we've got a good amount of folks online. If we can all stick around, we're gonna do a breakout session. So the way this will work, we're gonna do a breakout session. Each of you will get a prompt and you'll get put into a virtual breakout room with about 3 to 4 people in there. We'd like you to just share and introduce yourself and just to share a couple things. Your name, your company and who you're with, and 1 or 2 takeaways that you took from this session. And then after the 10 minutes, we'll ask you to stick around and we're gonna bring everyone back into this forum and people can share via chat and just give some feedback on the session, any of your takeaways, anything that could be improved, anything like that. So stick around, look for this prompt. We are gonna set it right now and then we'll see you back here in 10 minutes.
but next circle may not be equivalent like this one.
All right, welcome back.
You just cut Justin off. He was just saying something.
Oh, no worries. It's okay.
That's how it works.
Yeah.
Okay, well, welcome back, everyone. Good to see everyone. Hopefully, you all made a new connection today. If I could ask, if you can just put in that chat box one of your takeaways from today's session, and also would love to get your feedback on things that you really enjoyed about it and things that can be improved.
And hopefully maybe in 6 months, we can regroup and see how the market is, and hopefully in person, but if we don't, we can do another virtual one and invite Justin and Alan and Deborah back, and who knows, in 6 months, maybe things will change drastically. It would be interesting to see how things change after the first of the year. So that would be interesting. So thank you everyone for joining us today, and we appreciate again, Justin, Alan, and Deborah for your wonderful input. Got good feedback from my group here that they really enjoy it. And so hopefully we can see you again. So thank you very much. Any other last word, Deborah or Justin or Alan?
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me. And, you know, maybe there's some rosier comments that could be made in 6 months' time.
How about you, Justin?
No, Helen, thanks for putting this forth. It was a pleasure to work with VNARP, ACP, AREAA. I think this is the first time we've done a collaboration.
Exactly.
So hopefully more so in the future. No, this was awesome. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you. Alan, are you there?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for, again, everyone, all three organizations. I appreciate you guys having me here. I'll leave the residential agents with a quick note. Don't go to the couch. There's actually a lot of business out there, especially with referrals. The big players that typically farm neighborhoods are not getting the traction they used to because their open house signs aren't out anymore. They're not doing open houses, so they're losing a lot of business. So people are calling people they know again, back to that old referral base. So don't sit on the couch. Reach back to your network, hit your database. There's somebody, do social media. There's somebody that needs help. So get out there and just go get it.
Great. Mark, any last word for our group? Thank you everyone for joining ACP, AREAA, Greater East Bay, and VNARP. I appreciate all your time. Mark, you have anything to say to the group?
Thank you for organizing.
Great to see everyone. Yeah, thank you for joining us. Thank you to all the panelists. Took a lot of hard work, but I think we got some great info. Yeah, and be safe out there, everyone.
And Mark, one quick thing. I know this whole session is being recorded. Will you be send that out so that people can hear it?
Yep. So we'll as soon as we hang up here, it's gonna record it, and then we'll send a link to each of the organizations, and they can share with everyone.
Great. Thank you so much, everyone.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye now.
Nice
Good job. Good job.
That's
Yeah.
all,
Thank
Emily.
you.
I take no credit for that. That's all Emily.
Emily, thank you so much.
Thank you,
owe
Emily.
You're welcome. Hi.
I want to see your face, Emily.
I'm in the second
Okay.
bedroom, like looking very unglamorous.
It's
'cause we're
okay.
In the middle of a move. So
Thank you, Emily.
Yeah, that was a great job. I like the music. And what do you guys think about overall?